Hello! So I am currently in a little bit of a sewing rut. I just finished a really large project that took me many months to work on, and now I don't really know what to sew next. I have all of these vintage tablecloths that were my great-grandma's, and as we were cleaning out her house a few years ago, I just kind of scooped them up knowing that one day I would have a project for them. But I haven't really made anything out of them, and they've been sitting with my other fabric, kind of collecting dust, because I've been waiting for the perfect project. I think I've come to the conclusion, though, that there just isn't going to be a perfect project for something, and that waiting to use these tablecloths just means that they might as well be in a storage facility. I might as well have gotten rid of them. I'm not using them as tablecloths. I'm not using them to sew with. They're just sitting on a shelf. So I'm going to start using them. I want to start using my vintage tablecloth collection, and I have one here that now that I've cleaned it, I cleaned it last night and got a lot of the stains out. I'm so excited to use this, and I was wondering if I could because of the stains, but the magic of OxyClean has worked, and some of the stains are still there, but they're much lighter, much less noticeable as before, so I'm really excited for it. So this is the tablecloth that I intend to use. I just think that it has so many bright colors. I know we're entering more of the winter time where there's less of these bright colors. I feel like this might be more of a summer shirt, but I'm never one to shy away from bright colors depending on the season. As you can see, I just made a very vibrant, colorful hoodie that I intend to wear all year long. So for this one, I'm hoping to make a collared button-down shirt. I just think that all of these nice details on the tablecloth deserve something really spectacular and something that I'm actually going to wear and show out in the world. And I could make a tote bag, I could make a makeup bag out of this, I could use it in a quilt, but I feel like a shirt is something that would really highlight some of the designs on the tablecloth. I really think I'm going to try and make this 90-degree corner the focus of the shirt on the front. So it'll button up here at the placket, and then it'll, on each side, we'll have this cool 90-degree section here coming up into a collar. And then hopefully if I can get it all to match up, I can make it so that red band wraps around the back as well. I'm gonna try my best to put the stains to the back of the shirt. I already did some planning last night, and so I think I'm ready to start cutting into this. But first, let me show you some of the planning that I did last night.
Okay, I'm going through and laying my pattern pieces out just to make sure that I have enough space on this tablecloth, and I think I do. And some of the worst of the stains are over here, and there's some along where I think the back piece will go. I'm not thrilled about having the stains be on the back, but I like this fabric too much to let it go to waste, and I really want to make a shirt like this out of here. So I think I'm going to have some stains, so that's why they're going on the back. I should be able to work around some stains like this just with placement of the sleeves, but so far I think all of my pattern pieces are going to lay correctly. This pattern is cut a little big for me, so it'll come in a little bit in the middle seam here. This red blocking will, on both sides of the front of the shirt, have a very distinct line and then cut off, which I think will be really interesting and cool. And then I was originally thinking about making this short sleeve, but as it is the winter month and I have enough space on this tablecloth, I really am thinking about making this a long sleeve shirt. I think it would just make it a lot more interesting, and I think I would wear it more. So I'm gonna try, and then worst case scenario, I can just cut off the top of the sleeve and then have that just be a short sleeve shirt. But I wanted to lay out all of my pattern pieces tonight. That way, tomorrow morning, after I've soaked this tablecloth in OxyClean and washed it, I can have a better idea of what I'm going to do. It's important to like kind of pre-plan for when you're sewing. I'm not always the best at that. So this is me kind of trying to make sure I have enough fabric, make sure I have things in the right place, because it's so devastating when you like are so excited for a project and have all the pieces laid out and you think you're all ready, and then you go to cut it and you realize that you actually don't have enough material for what you want to do. So overall, pieces should all lay out fine. I may have to end up using like a scrap or a different fabric for the underside of the collar and for the facing of the buttons. But I think that would be fine. I think that might be like a fun little detail, if anything. Maybe I can find like a fun red to do that. Same with like the inside of the cuffs. Maybe I can make those red, and that can be like a fun thing to think about. I realize now too that I laid out the collar, but I didn't lay out any other parts for the collar, but I have more than enough room, so I'm not that worried about that part of it. So I'm gonna go soak this overnight in OxyClean, really hoping that I'll be able to get some of these stains out. I'm not sure though. This tablecloth, like I said before, is really old. It's from like the 60s, I believe. Could be earlier, could be later. And some of those stains, I'm sure, have been in there since the 60s or 70s or 80s. So fingers crossed.
I also want to mention that I put this through the washing machine and the dryer on full heat, and it held up really, really well. And I wanted to do that first before I began sewing with it, because if it didn't hold up on a pre-treat wash, then I wasn't sure how it was going to hold up once I'd cut into it and the fabric was compromised and it wasn't holding a hem like it had before. So if it didn't stand the test of the first wash, then I probably wasn't going to use this for a garment. But now that I know that it's pretty sturdy, and I feel like I don't have to iron it too much. Like, it is not I did not iron this before filming, and there are not many wrinkles. So that makes me hopeful for it as a shirt too, because I really hate ironing. I don't mind ironing when I'm sewing, but if an everyday shirt has to be ironed, I'm probably not going to wear it as much. I don't usually cut a pattern piece like this, where I had the back and the front piece cut side by side so there's no seam here. I don't normally do that. This is actually the first time that I've ever done this. So we will truly see how it goes, but if need be, I'll just like add in a little seam to take it in a little bit. But I was so worried about making sure that this red line lines up all the way around that I just put the pattern pieces next to each other. And if I need to take it in, I'll take it in. But I thought it would be so much easier to take it in with the pieces attached than it would be to try to pattern match with pieces that were separate. So I'll let you know if this works out. I really hope it does, but it is making it so I have a little bit more bulk
when I'm like trying to sew all the pieces, and the edges are getting a little more frayed because I have more things to move. But for right now, I'm just about to go in and do some French seams on the shoulder seams. I have the back placket all done. I decided not to put a pleat in it and just leave it. Mostly because I wanted more design at the top, but also because I didn't want to have a pleat in the middle of this really pretty design down the center back. I'm really excited for how this is turning out. I think it looks so cool so far. I'm going through and making sure that I'm doing French seams for most of my seams, just because this is a very loose weave of fabric and I don't want anything unraveling as I'm going through and sewing or as I'm wearing it. I want this to be a garment for as long as I can with as minimal repairs as I can throughout its lifespan. I just sewed this French seam and I went to put it on my arm and I realized that it is in fact too small right here, and I made quite a big French seam, so I am gonna have to unpick this. It's fine in the like actual cuff, but up here closer to like my bicep, I'm too strong and the sleeve, my muscles are bulging out of it. So I gotta make it a little bit bigger. That way I don't cause it to strain as I'm wearing it. But I have to go through and unpick this French seam, at least half of it. That way I can make the seam smaller, try to get some more of that room up in the armpit. Worst case scenario, I'll have to add a gusset, but I don't think I'm gonna need to do that. I think just an extra 1/4 inch will make all the difference. So that's my next thing. But this is currently where I left off. It is a few days later. I was originally going to fold all of this in to make the button placket on the inside, but I have realized that that would not fit. So instead, I'm just going to be folding over just a little bit and then sewing in a placket with a different strip. That way we'll get some more extra room out of this and I'll be able to wear it more often. I also will definitely be cropping this. I prefer my shirts cropped. I'm gonna leave a sliver of white at the bottom because I really want that 90° to be pronounced. The back of the shoulders look good. I'm happy with the placement for them, but I am worried about the front here. It comes in pretty far, so I'm going to bring that in just a little bit, about 1 inch, and then knowing that it's gonna have about 5/8 of an inch tucked under for that seam. I've been doing French seams over most of the seams that I've done so far, but for the armholes I really want to get a good fit, so I'm gonna end up doing just a regular seam and then using a zigzag stitch on my machine. I do not have a serger, so that's as close as I'm gonna get to having a nice finish on the edge there so it won't fray. I have noticed that this fabric when cut really likes to fray, so I want to prevent that as much as I possibly can. So next steps are bringing in the shoulders, and then I'm going to sew in those sleeves. I'm really excited to see how these fit. I think they look really nice, and I think they'll brighten up the front a little bit, especially since right now most of the pattern is like on the side and back, so I'm hoping that it'll bring some of the pattern to the front so you'll be able to see it a little more. Okay, sleeves are set in. I'm happy with their placement. There's no straining. I am wearing a shirt underneath, so it is a little tight there, but without a shirt it fits fine. Next up, I got to hem the sleeves because they are too long. And then I have to add in the button placket and the buttons and then the collar. And those should be it. So I'm really liking how it's coming out. I kind of intend to wear this exclusively with the sleeves rolled up, which is one of the reasons that I really wanted to do a French seam on the inside. I'm also excited because there's this small hole in the fabric here just from being in use as a tablecloth, and I was worried that it was going to be too high up the sleeve, that I was going to have to like try to patch it, but it is actually far enough down the sleeve that when I hem it, that hole will disappear. I'll cut it off, so that's exciting. For the collar, should I include the red stripe or should I get more of the pattern? I don't know, I might do the button. I have to do the button placket before I size the collar, so I will see what that looks like. But first I'm gonna cut the strips for the button placket and go ahead and add those on. So I'll work on that. And then I need to figure out the collar. I'm not looking forward to drafting the collar. Collars are kind of the bane of my existence, but I'm gonna work on it the best I can. I'm gonna make a mock-up to pin to this first to see how it goes. And then I'll go ahead and actually start cutting the collar because I wanna make sure that I get it right, especially on such a beautiful shirt like this. I'm so excited for it. I think it looks so nice, but I have finished the sleeve hem, the bottom hem of the shirt. I have also gone in and sewn in the button plackets. I just used a strip off the tablecloth that's white, and you can't see it at all on the outside, so I'm excited about that. All that's left is the buttons and the collar. And the collar, like I said before, I'm a little nervous about just because I don't like the collar on this pattern that I used. And so I'm going to draft my own collar. That being said, not that great at collars. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take a plain brown grocery bag and some orange cotton. And what I'm going to do is on my paper bag, I am going to create a collar pattern and then execute it on the orange, pin it in place on the shirt, see how it is. That way, if I like it, then I have my pattern piece. If I don't like it, I can make modifications to the pattern piece and try again until I get what I like, giving me a pattern piece that I will then use to cut out this shirt. I'm also uncertain if I want to make the collar have this red stripe on it or if I want it to have more of this pattern on the back. The thing is that this shirt doesn't have a lot of the pattern on the front. Most of it is on the side and on the back. So I kind of feel like it needs to have that pattern piece in the collar in order for it to look right. So I might have to cut out like two halves of the collar that have the pattern on them and sew them together. That way I can get kind of even footing on each side of the collar. What I'm also thinking is making one side of the collar have this red stripe and then one side of the collar have this pattern. That way I can pin it in place and see which one I like more. And then the other side will just be like a fun little detail. I'm gonna go ahead and work on the collar. I'm going to start by making the pattern piece that this pattern comes in bigger and go from there. So that's gonna be my starting point. I already pinned like the pattern piece and kind of measured it out with this, and it's solidly like 4 inches off. I don't know why that pattern piece never works with any of my collars. I don't know if it's a pattern or if I cut out the wrong size and just never realized. I don't know. But I'm gonna go ahead and get started drafting on this collar. Wish me luck. I hate doing collars. So hopefully this will be easy, fingers crossed.
Okay, I've gone through and pinned in my orange collar just so I could get a better look at how it is. And I'm really happy that I went ahead and did this mock-up rather than just like freehanding it on this fabric, because the risks are too high and I don't have enough of this in order to like mess up and recut things. I really like where the collar is right now. I like how much extra space is here for the buttons. I think it looks really nice, especially when open. It looks really tall right now, but 5/8 of an inch will be taken in as I put the inside facing. I already have the outside pinned down. And so all in all, I'm happy with how this design is, and I'm happy with how the angle is on this collar, the points and everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and make the final version of this collar out of the other material, out of this tablecloth. That way I can actually sew it and put it on and be done with the collar. I'm realizing as I try to lay out the collar that this is the biggest area of pattern that I have left, and I don't currently have enough for it to make a full collar, especially having the pattern on this end point like I would want. So I'm gonna do something a little different. I am going to cut out half of the collar, leave a tail about 5/8, draw in that seam line that I want to make sure that it's the right size, and then I'll cut out the other half of the collar the other way. That way I can make sure that I get some of this pattern on this point where it'll show, because otherwise if I just lay it out with this pattern piece in the middle, I'm just gonna get white at the end, which completely defeats my point of wanting to make sure the pattern is on the front. So it'll just end up on the side and the back, just like the rest of the shirt. So I'm gonna go and do things a little differently. I'm gonna try to make sure I get as much of this blue in as possible, just because I think it would look really nice counteracting like the red stripe on the front. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Fingers crossed it all works out like I want. I forgot to hit record, so the only thing I got was the inside of the collar, which still has this really cool detail. I did have these two pieces for the front collar, so it'll come out kind of like this with lots of details on the front, lots of color, and then I drew in with my erasable pen a seam line on each piece. That is going to be where I stitch to join the pieces together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew along that seam, put on the interfacing, make the collar all together, and then I can put it on my shirt. And that is another check mark for all that's left. Just have to put in that facing after that and add the buttons. We are so close to the finish line. It's crazy, so close. So let's do that. My problem has now changed from I don't know what to do with the collar to I have made two really cool sides of a collar and I don't know which side to use. I could do this one that has little, like, it almost looks like flames or feathers coming out. That looks really cool. But then I also have this side, which has more of that pattern like I wanted. So I think what I'm gonna do is just pin both sides to the shirt, see which one I like more, and then go from there. But I mean, this is a good problem to have. I'd rather have two really good sides than both sides being like meh, and me not liking it and having to remake it. So I'm pretty pumped about that.
I do think I like this pattern more just because it brings in the pattern on the side a little bit better. I do also kind of like that it doesn't go all the way around. It makes it a little special, though there's only like that much that's actually white in the back, but you get a little bit of the red stripe too. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and sew this down, pull the facing, and then all that's left is buttons and buttonholes. So yay!
So I made this out of my great grandma's tablecloth, and it was all stained.
I wasn't gonna be using it very much. But I feel like I need to keep on the theme of using things that were my great-grandma's. And when we cleared out her house, I got a lot of her old fabric and tablecloths, as well as her buttons. And this is just the buttons that are on cards. I have a big bin full of loose buttons as well that I already looked through, didn't see anything. But I have these buttons. I've been waiting for the perfect project to use these, and I think I just need to give in to the fact that it's never gonna happen. And this might be the perfect project, because these buttons are red and navy and white, and I think they're gonna be perfect. The only thing is I have 4. And I went through and did a rough planning of where I can put the buttons. So I think I can get away with doing 1, 2, 3, 4 and not having one at the top, which I don't plan on ever buttoning up the shirt all the way to the top. So I think I can get away with that. If I really need to, I could use a clear button. This being said, I have clear buttons that were my great-grandma. So I could do the safe option and do clear, or I could do the funky red ones, which there's such a big panel of white here, which I wasn't originally anticipating, but I had to just for sizing, that I feel like it needs a little color. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and try to use these buttons. And if I really hate them or feel like I need another button at the top, I could always replace them with the boring clear ones. They're about the same size. The buttonholes really wouldn't make a difference. But I'm gonna go ahead and start making buttonholes and actually like officially measuring this out, not just guessing, so I can add these buttons. I don't have a fancy buttonhole foot that works and like measures your button and figures out how big your buttonhole has to be. So my machine does do buttonholes, but it kind of goes with guesstimating, and I really have to focus on how big I want it to be and what chalk marks I made on the pattern piece before. That's why I had gone through with my heat activated marker and made sure I really like marked out how big the button is. I also made sure that I did measure so they're all equal. I don't think I filmed that. I know it just kind of looked like I went through and like sloppily measured out a button, but I did go through and make sure they were accurate and even across the whole thing. So fingers crossed this goes well. I don't love making buttonholes on this machine, but I hate making the buttonholes by hand even more. So this is what we're gonna do. I do have a buttonhole foot that's just like a little wider of an opening, but yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and use my machine to make these buttonholes, and then I can hand sew the buttons, and then I'm done. So let's go ahead and do that. Always do your bottom buttonhole first, because that way if you mess up or need to make any adjustments, the rest of them will look nice, and people are less likely to notice the mistake on the bottom buttonhole than one at the top near your face. So always do the bottom one first. That's a tip that I learned the hard way. I'm on the way to my quilt club that I do every month, and this month we're doing a sew and tell. So I'm bringing my quilted hoodie that I made last week or the week before, and then I don't know how many things I'm allowed to show off, but I had to wear my new shirt to show that off. I love how this shirt turned out. It was getting a little iffy in the middle. I wasn't sure how I was feeling about it, especially the front with less of the pattern on it. But I really think these buttons brought the whole thing together. I'm so happy that I chose to use these because this white panel in the front just needs something extra, and the fun buttons really bring it together. I also love how the sleeves turned out. This fabric does wrinkle a little bit, so that is a little bit of a downer. But I feel like once I get up and start moving, the wrinkles will actually fall out. At least that's my hope. I do like the collar. I went with the pattern side just to bring the pattern more to the front. I do think it would have looked really cool with this side on the front, but it would have been a lot more white, a lot more cream. And I wanted to bring the blues in, that way it matched the back. But this is a really cool collar. I almost wish that I didn't make the underside so cool. That way it wouldn't have been such a decision to make to figure out which side. But you know, it's a good problem to have, figuring out which side's the better side when they're both great. So I'm okay with that. I've styled a really cute outfit with this where I have on some striped trousers here, and then I have red earrings that match really well with my white Converse, and I just feel really cute today with my little outfit, and I can't wait to go to show and tell and show off all of my fun things that I've made. It's also a potluck. I'm gonna have a great time. Thank you so much for watching till the end of this video. I've really enjoyed making longer videos. Definitely going to continue to do it. My last video kind of popped off, so that is crazy. People keep commenting on it. I'm really happy with how this turned out. It's definitely a piece I'm going to be wearing, and I'm just so excited. I'm just so excited to wear it. I post videos every other Tuesday at the moment. We will see if that continues. It can be really hard to make large scale projects at the same time as doing a 9-to-5 job and then posting every other week. And so right now I'm going to try to keep posting every other week. But in the future that may change depending on the size of the project, because I want to keep doing really cool big things, but that takes time in order to create a really nice finished project that I will use and will want to share with people. So kind of have to figure out the timing on that. I'm gonna go to Quilt Club. Thank you so much for watching this video, and have a good one. Bye.
I live on a very busy street and there's lots of trucks and it's raining, so they make loud noises and splashing in puddles.